This is a story about money, lots of it, where the belief in big profits meets a passion for the arts. For years now, the world's largest auction houses have made sales worth millions. How does it work?
Even in times of crisis, there are still many people who have a lot of money to spend.
$1, $2, $10, even $1 million.
It's a game, it's speculation.
The auction of a work by the artist Gerhard Richter valued at 16 to 20 million US dollars.
And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the extraordinary Gerhard Richter, the 192 Farben, the first work in Richter's expansive color chart series and the artist's very first abstract painting.
What makes a single piece of work by a contemporary living artist so valuable? We ask the people who are putting the painting up for sale, the renowned global auction house Sothebys. The work belonged to a collector's family, one that art expert Bastienne Leuthe has known for years. Good relationships are crucial in the art market. Trust is a precious commodity. The work 192 Farben was privately owned for 40 years. Gerhard Richter created the piece in 1966, influenced by pop art and industrial color sample cards. This seminal work was also the basis for a stained glass window in the Cologne Cathedral designed by Richter. Unveiled in 2007, it's one of the German artist's most popular works. Bastienne Leuthe attends the much-anticipated auction. She believes its high estimated value is justified. The color chart artworks rarely reach the market.
I mean, this is a very radical painting. It's the first abstract work he painted, and when you consider what he'd do later on in his life, the first abstract work is quite a groundbreaking statement.
And I'm going to start the bidding here at £10,500,000. So £10,500,000, £11 million, £12 million, £12,500,000 here, £13 million here, £14 million, thank you, £15,200,000, at £15,700,000. Thank you very much.
After 7 minutes, the painting goes to an anonymous buyer for altogether more than 20 million US dollars. Why is someone prepared to hand over such a sum? Let's take a closer look. For decades now, German contemporary artist Gerhard Richter has been considered one of the most important living artists in the world. He gained a reputation for constantly reinventing himself and pushing the boundaries of painting. Permanent breaks in style are part of his trademark. His art has commanded high prices since the 1980s. Richter has recently withdrawn from the spotlight. One of his last public appearances was at an opening in 2018.
I always have the feeling that they're all botched. But on the other hand, yes, they're better than the others. Definitely, that's how it goes.
Richter is a gentleman artist, always a little reserved. His art should speak for itself, he feels. He knew from an early age that painting was what he wanted to do. Gerhard Richter has lived through turbulent times. He was born in Dresden in eastern Germany in 1932. This German city was reduced to rubble like few others during World War II. In the years following the war, Germany was divided into East and West. Gerhard Richter's hometown was in the heart of communist East Germany. In 1950, Richter applied to study at Dresden's University of Fine Arts, but ironically received a rejection. A year later, he was allowed to begin his studies at the Dresden Art Academy. In Dresden, we meet a longtime companion of Richter. Dietmar Elger is the director of the Gerhard Richter Archive and wrote a biography of the artist. He knows why Richter left communist East Germany.
After the second documenta, Richter experimented with abstraction. But these had to stay in the drawer in communist East Germany. He couldn't really show them. And from this came the desire to continue this work in a different political situation, without that being the decisive factor. So it wasn't a political decision, but rather a decision for a different kind of art.
Richter fled to the West in 1961. His later success is also due to his very specific life story. Few artists have experienced divided Germany from both sides. Richter went to Düsseldorf. At the time, it was the major center for artists and collectors. He studied at the Düsseldorf Art Academy, where he met like-minded people, fellow artists like Sigmar Polke, Konrad Luke, and Manfred Kuttner. They created what was dubbed capitalist realism as a reaction to the socialist realism of the communist East.
I feel he's also a special case because he grew up under National Socialism, was educated under socialism, and then became successful under capitalism, so to speak. So there's already these three things. That's quite a complex story that comes with him. He already had 3 galleries in 3 different German cities in 1964, and it really took off from there very early on. Suddenly, somehow, in 1966, he then had a gallery, an exhibition in a gallery in Venice and in other Italian cities too. So he positioned himself really well very early on.
Richter knew how to market himself and how to win over gallery owners and collectors. An important step was also getting a foot in the U.S. market. Here, legendary gallery owner Marion Goodman was instrumental. She introduced Richter to the most influential collectors.
He had his own ideas and wasn't influenced by trends. I think that's the big problem today, that sometimes artists, because they don't have enough time anymore to develop, let themselves be influenced too much by the zeitgeist and trends.
Thank you very much.
Today, the fast pace of the digital age is the big trend influencing the market. Alongside conservative investments like Gerhard Richter, speculative works are bringing in record revenues. In the middle of the pandemic, the art market is booming. Young, less risk-averse collectors are getting in on the action. Technical innovations offer new possibilities. NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, are being touted as the art market's salvation. Have you heard of U.S. artist Beeple? The digital collage, Every Day's The First 5,000 Days, wrote art history when it unexpectedly sold for $69 million at Christie's auction house. Another highlight of the crypto art craze was the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Buyers of NFT monkeys also got access to exclusive events. In no time, the Bored Ape Yacht Club became the status symbol for celebrities in 2021. At the height of the hype, one ape picture was traded for more than $2 million. In 2022, works of art from the internet also made it into museums. The Kunsthalle Zürich in Switzerland hosts the DYOR exhibition, a comprehensive show covering the emerging crypto art scene. One person who knows his way around this new world of NFTs is German digital artist Manuel Rossner. He has expanded the exhibition to include a virtual reality of his own creation. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is an NFT?
So, how do I start? For NFTs, you have to understand the blockchain. And that's a lot of computers that store the same kind of information. And because there are so many, you can't just go there and change some information because the others will notice. And by that, you don't need some person to check all of that. That's happening automatically. And now, instead of only registering money transactions, so who owns what, you can also add an NFT, which means that the so-called wallet that you own is registered on the blockchain, and it says you own this so-called token.
Why is this so revolutionary? Because everything can be certified with it. It's the digitized form of an asset. That wasn't possible before. Digital art and files could be copied. The term NFT comes from the world of cryptocurrencies. That's where many new art collectors come from. They trade in cryptocurrency and have become rich in digital spaces. For the art market, this technology is a revolution. Prices, formerly secret, are now openly visible on websites, as well as who bought what and when.
To really capture the dynamics and the scale of all the digital possibilities, I think this medium is really the right one. And being able to interact with collectors in this way is something new and something very powerful and helpful for digital artists, of course.
Artists like Manuel Rossner are suddenly earning money with their digital art. Rossner is a prime mover on the German crypto art market. He's created his own museum for his NFT collection, virtually, of course. His works can be seen in international exhibitions. Trading NFTs has been a global phenomenon since 2020. Despite the extreme price fluctuations of cryptocurrencies, they are seen as a revolutionary opportunity to change the global art market. Global participation is the key. In the past, only well-established institutions were in control. Market outsiders couldn't break in. The experience of Latin American artists shows how this is changing, like in Colombia.
There are millions of people in the world who create cultural products, who want to sell their intellectual property, their cultural property, but who simply uploaded it to networks such as Instagram for a little heart. Now, with Web 3.0, we have the distribution of value because we can now upload these works to networks which are no longer for a little heart, but for $1, $2, $10,000 or $1 million.
This allows artists to manage themselves without a gallery as intermediary. Especially in countries like Colombia, this is a real opportunity since cryptocurrencies are also recognized by the state bank as an official means of payment. During the pandemic, many artists in the country began posting and marketing their works in virtual spaces.
The speed at which one can share a digital work, an NFT, is different. It's much faster than selling a painting to a collector. I create a picture in NFT and immediately, beyond sharing it on Instagram, people can see it in a space like in the metaverse.
Colombian gallery owners are now allowing works to be purchased with cryptocurrency.
We're on a good path because there has been a lot of talk about this, and in the pandemic, many Colombians have invested in cryptocurrencies. So there are a lot of people who already understand the system. So it's easy to say, okay, as well as cryptocurrencies, we have NFTs.
However, the hype may have run its course. Many cryptocurrencies have crashed. This has also affected the NFT trade, but not brought it to a standstill. Back to Germany. Here, some Berlin gallery owners are showing a cautious openness to the NFT market. Berlin gallery Nagel Draxler has opened the Crypto Kiosk as a side gallery space. Crypto artists are exhibited here, but it's not their main focus, and they advise collectors to be cautious.
It's a bit of a gamble, it's speculation, and the media inflate individual works very strongly. So the art market itself, in NFTs, that's a very small percentage. That's 5%.
Instability in cryptocurrency markets has dampened the frenzy and damaged confidence in the new market. But there is still potential in venturing into the metaverse. However, the big bucks are still made with time-tested masters at auctions in the real world.
There are now many new players in the market. The market is relatively stable. Art is now often bought as an investment, whether you think that's good or not. Either very young art is bought or people return to positions that have proven their worth in the market. To artists who have already passed the historical test, so to speak, an artist like Richter.
So how did Gerhard Richter develop into such a valuable artist? For one thing, he had a lot of time to develop his craft. The pre-digital age moved at a much slower pace. Like many other artists in the 1960s, Richter also processed Western consumerism in his early work. He found templates in magazines, was interested in the interplay of reality and appearance. He painted photorealistic images and blurred them. He deliberately painted out of focus. Such elements made him famous.
Richter actually wanted to take photos with his painting. It was a time when people thought painting no longer played a role. Painting was superfluous. We have photography. We have thousands, millions of pictures. That's the essential thing. We don't need painting at all anymore. And in this time, Richter succeeded in asserting the importance of painting over photography.
Richter's art repeatedly reflected on social developments. albeit with hindsight. These controversial paintings focus on the deaths of members of the RAF terrorist group. He confronts German history, as with the confrontation with the evils of National Socialism in his Birkenau cycle.
My main interest is to paint. I like to have a certain freedom to do what I want.
For 5 decades, he has created abstract art. Since the 1980s, his works have fetched high sums on the market, especially what are known as the squeegee paintings. In 2015, abstract painting 599 sold for $46.3 million, a record for a contemporary artist.
It's also a reality that, at the moment, Richter's later abstract pictures have a higher value than his early photorealistic works. And this is rather strange in a way, because there are many more of the abstracts than of the artist's early works, but here it's current tastes which of course play a very big role. In particular, it's the works from 1986 onwards, which are of course very, very recognisable and have a very high aesthetic impact. That's definitely the case, and that naturally appeals to many people, including some of those who are now collectors. Those who pay really high prices for works of art are of course often people who do not necessarily have the background, who are perhaps not so incredibly well versed in art history.
Thank you very much.
Buying an artwork for $20 million could be seen as profitable, but only if you can afford to play the art as investment game. How about you? If you had $20 million to invest in art, would you buy a Richter or an NFT? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.